welcome to the D3D4 Football Podcast with me, your host, James Richards.
Yes, hello, good morning everyone. Welcome back to another D3D4 Football Podcast. Happy Valentine's Day to everyone. What better way for me to be spending my Valentine's Day than talking lower league football with the luscious Ed Walker. Ed, can you feel the candlelit pod vibe going on here?
I don't think I've ever had the word luscious used to describe me before. I'm quite honoured about that, thank you.
You do yourself a disservice on Tinder, mate, honestly. And look, we've got a real treat for you. I know everyone feels a bit down about themselves today. So what I did is I went and found a Grimsby Town fan to join us today, just to make us realise how lucky we really are. I'd like to introduce Alex Green, host of the DN35 pod. Alex, welcome to the show.
Thanks, James. You told me this was going to be a therapy session for me, not for everybody else.
Oh,
I'm slightly worried now.
I think we can make it both. Yeah. But on a serious note, I would like to say, I know there are some people out there who are actually really struggling right now. A few of you have been in touch. Just like to say, our DMs are always open. I'm on Twitter quite a lot, so if you do ever feel the need to reach out, just don't hesitate. Everyone is feeling, I think, some sort of hardships at the minute, especially with the current conditions that we're living under. So honestly, don't be a stranger, people. Reach out if you need to. You can find us on Twitter at D3D4Football. Our email is D3D4Football@hotmail.com. So, don't be a stranger if you're finding things tough right now. We've got loads to talk about today, despite the fact that there wasn't a lot of games to survive the winter weather. It's quite fun. I think it was it Thursday or Friday? It was Friday. I think the games were just literally dropping off like flies in League 2 especially. Only 2 surviving, 1 being moved. I think Colchester. Is it Colchester Mansfield today, Ed?
Yes, it is. That's
been moved. And Oxford play Wigan today. I assume the pitch will survive that. But we do get, with the open end, we do get a blizzard coming through there. So I can see why it's a tough one, that. But yeah, loads to talk about. And as always, we'll jump in to League One first.
League One.
And the reason I start in League One first is literally just after we finished the pod last week, Ed. Fleetwood very cheekily went and appointed Simon Grayson as their new manager, and so we didn't really get to touch upon that. We were talking about potential candidates a couple of weeks ago. Your thoughts on Simon Grayson? He was at his last club was Blackpool, so he's not gone far.
Yeah, I don't really know what to make of it, to be honest. I think Grayson's all right as a manager. I'm just not particularly inspired by what Fleetwood are going to do for the rest of the season. I think they're probably going to be around where they are at the moment. I was having a talk with a couple of people a couple of days ago or so, and I'm a slight bit concerned they might get dragged into the bottom of the table. I don't think it will happen, but I'm just a bit unsure about what Fleetwood are going to do at the minute, so I'm curious to see what happens with Grayson, because I'm a bit unsure.
Yeah, it's hard to know, isn't it? It's hard to know, because he plays a certain way, I think it's fair to say. Alex, what's your thoughts on Simon Grayson? Because, he has had great success at this level before, but his recent appointments, if you look at Sunderland and Blackpool, they've not been resounding successes, let's say.
Yeah, and I do with most things in life, I look at it through a Grimsby Town prism. So I was terrified when Fleetwood changed managers in case Matete had to go back and was recalled. But he's a steady hand on a tiller, I think, and given Fleetwood's current position, it's not the worst case in the world whether they consolidate their position for this season and look at what the future will hold. It also helps that I assume he lives locally, and it tends to be those sort of aspects that fit into new jobs rather than anything else at times. Hey, look, it's one of these appointments where in 6 months' time we could be seeing his departure, or it could be one of these where we're looking at potentially a crafty little move by Fleetwood.
Yeah, I agree. It's hard to know, but we'll give them the benefit of the doubt. I don't think it's fair to come in too hard either side of the argument here, because he, like I say, he's a manager who has had success. Perhaps he's not the most inspiring, I think, appointment these days, but we'll give him some time certainly to have a look at how he does. I mean, he's got a good squad to work with, a good club, and a good chairman. So those are the pretty important factors when you take any job. I think most managers would say if you could choose your chairman, then you choose the club. That's the order in which they would do it. And I think in Andy Pilley they've got an excellent owner, certainly a very stable club since he's been there. and he knows the crack. Certainly, having spoken to him a few times, he's a good bloke. So Simon Grayson, I think, choosing wisely. Bristol Rovers, choosing wisely doesn't appear to be something they're very good at recently, and I actually thought Paul Tisdale was a really good appointment, but it does seem on the face of it that it's kind of a good manager, but in the wrong club at the wrong time. He just didn't get much out of them, but he didn't get much help in terms of, we know that they were in for strikers, we know they were in for Jaden Stockley, they were in for Bowman, they were looking desperately to bring in some more firepower, because that has been their huge problem. They played actually quite well against Oxford in his final game, but they couldn't hit the net, and he's gone after just 15 league games, which to me is like, it's not good. It's not a good look anyway. And there's certainly a sort of alarm bells ringing around in my head regarding what's going on at the Mem at the moment. I don't know, what's your take on this? Because Tisdale, he's a good manager, isn't he, generally?
Yeah, the reaction to this, I think, was really quite interesting. Tisdale, I think we've always associated as a guy who you give several years to. You think about the years and years he had at Exeter. I know there are some Exeter fans who weren't particularly keen on him towards the end, but you can't ignore the longevity he had there. MK, I think his objective was basically to get them out of League Two at the first attempt and then progress in League One, and there was a sense he wasn't doing that. And I think with Bristol Rovers, it was always one that you maybe thought was going to work out long term, but the short term was really bad. You can't ignore the thorn they were in. I think it was 2 points from a possible 27, maybe something like that. Really bad form at the moment, including some heavy defeats as well. And it was always going to be a case of whether they stick or twist, and they've chosen to twist. And I'm never encouraged when a club gets onto their third manager in a season. It's never a good sign for me, and I'm a bit worried about what they do. I think there's quite a lot of Bristol Rovers fans who want Jerry Barton in, from what I've seen. So maybe that can work out right. I think the objective to them now is obviously to keep themselves afloat in League One next season. Maybe Barton could be the answer to that. We'll have to see.
I like the Barton idea because I think he is, he's the opposite to Tisdale, isn't he? He's like fiery, motivator. You're not sure he'll survive anywhere long term because eventually he'll have an argument with someone, probably someone quite influential. But I do think that, if you can get him in and keep them up, he is a good character to do that. I don't know, Alex, your thoughts? Because Tisdale, I still think he's got a lot to offer football. I mean, I hope this doesn't mean he's done in the game, but he took a long time to decide his next club, and it does seem it just was the wrong fit for him.
It'll be interesting to see or to hear what Tisdale was promised when he joined Bristol Rovers. It is a massive red flag when within sort of 15 games that he's out the door. And Joey Barton, maybe it's this case of where we are in the league, we want to get out of here, we want to move up and get somebody just to inspire the guys for the time being. But long term, is that really the guy you want in charge of the team? I mean, if Joey Barton's going to come in and join the club and have arguments with famous Bristolians, then that's absolutely fine with me, especially if it's certain ones. But it's a weird one, and you've got to wonder, what do Rovers look like to managers outside of them now? Going, well, they don't really support their managers, they don't really give them the time they need. I know Bristol Rovers fans in general are happy with the decision, but I don't know. I mean, and Tommy Woodrington, former Mariner, he's doing pretty well at the moment, but I just don't know. I just don't think it gives the right impression of the club outside of their sphere of gas heads, shall we say.
No, I think from the outside looking in, and from a new manager perspective, going, well, they only gave him 15 games, and if I go there and get sacked after the same amount of time or whatever, it's just not going to look good on my CV either. So it could be a limiting factor. I think they're a good club, though, generally, in terms of they're an appealing club. They're a club with a lot of ambition and a good fan base. But what they don't have is infrastructure to back it up. They don't have a stadium or a training ground that shouts ambition. It doesn't shout like they're a progressive team off the field. So those are the issues that I think long term they need to address. Short term, they just need to get some points on the board. Because I think, like I say, they played well against Oxford in that last game. We were very lucky. I mean, if they could hit a cow's backside with a banjo, we'd have not taken the 3 points. They missed some sitters, and it's just a shame that for Paul Tisdale it didn't happen for him. Another manager to lose his job is Keith Curle. This one pretty unanimous from the fan base that they're delighted to see him go. His football style and the performances weren't good enough. My big problem with this is they gave him the transfer window before getting rid of him. I mean, it just seems so strange, the timing for this one. I knew it would be a tough job for him when you see the players that he lost the likes of Callum Morton, Charlie Good, Verdane Oliver. This was a pretty good trio of players, and there were more besides, that were a bit of a spine to his promotion side. He was trying to recruit players that would play a different style. You could see it in his policy of recruitment. But just weird timing, Ed. I mean, yeah, I don't know where they'll go from here, but they're in spot of bother after yesterday's result.
Yeah, they are. I've been saying all season how much I sympathise with Keith Curle, the situation he's had. If he'd got that squad he took up from Wembley and kept them in League One this year and still had that squad, I think they'd be perfectly fine right now. They were always, I think the lone players were always likely to go given the form they were in. Charlie Good was always going to make this move. He was attracting so much attention, but losing people like Verdane Oliver and Jordan Turnbull, losing Nicky Adams in the winter, has really damaged them, and replacing them was always going to be difficult with the ones they brought in. And I just don't get why they've done this after the window either. I really don't. It must be that they've given them the opportunity with the signings, hoped to see improvements, and haven't, and now acted on it. And it's left them in a really sticky situation where I know there's quite a bit of doom and gloom around Northampton at the minute, and I understand that, but I would kind of still be a bit hesitant about it because we don't know who's coming in. I don't think you can act doom and gloom yet when you don't know who the manager coming in yet. Who's to say they don't find an excellent appointment, which they could well do, that gets them out of trouble, because they're still fully in the mix to survive. They're not dead and buried yet at all.
Oh no, I don't think anyone is after yesterday's result, actually. It's quite exciting. League One and Two, we cover them for the simple reason that they are just superb leagues. They're so exciting every season. We see sort of great escapes, we see last minute changes that affect the league table. We had points per game last season, blimey. I mean, that was albeit really harsh for some teams, but it certainly was an interesting thing to cover. Absolutely mad. But you got the win yesterday, and let's sidle onto that, because you played Northampton. You know this is a massive, massive game. More important for Burton than Northampton in the fact that you're further adrift and you needed to win. And you did the job, and you got another clean sheet. I mean, I can't take the mick out of Burton anymore on Twitter, which is outrageous.
The time will come, I'm sure. This game was quite difficult to watch. I feel the Northampton in this, because
you
they
were
were the
lucky you
best
weren't
side.
watching Cambridge Southend, trust me.
Oh, I'm sure we'll get onto that. Northampton, it felt like a bit of a shackles off performance from them, being without Keith Curle, having the trio in charge, including Brady. They had some really good intensity. They pressed really good early on. They were really on the back foot. They almost scored within 90 seconds from a free kick, which is almost a exact repeat of the previous fixture earlier in the season when they'd scored from a free kick out wide within 90 seconds. And I thought the same was about to happen, but I think it was disallowed or offside from Lloyd Jones. So we were quite thankful for that. And Northampton generally, I'd say, would have the better of the play. They were just incredibly wasteful with the opportunities that came their way to shoot. I think they put one shot on target in the second half, which was saved by Ben Garrett, and you get to around sort of the 75th, 76th minute, and it's a horrific mistake at the back. A back pass played to Jonathan Mitchell, the goalkeeper, who picks it up.
Yeah, big lack of concentration from
real lack of concentration, real lack of notice there, and they win an indirect free kick within the box. I've seen loads of that kind of free kick given for a back pass. I've never seen one that hasn't been scored. Every single time I've seen that, whether it's in England, in other parts of the world, anytime I've seen that free kick, it's always gone in, and Sean Clare lays it off to Michael Bostwick and he smashes it in the corner.
I can actually, I think Alex would want to join. Ben Davis missed over the bar. It was that season with Russell Slade in charge. I remember you had an indirect free kick in the box, and he managed to blaze over from about 7 yards, I think it was.
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Okay. I've never seen that chance miss myself, so I'll have to see if I've tried to avoid watching that one so I can keep that record up, but
I actually include it in a always look on the bright side of life Mickey take video of Grimsby Town's Russell Slade thing. Obviously no longer on our Twitter feed due to the fact that it's not our footage or anything like that. But at the time it did seem quite amusing putting it together. But it does happen.
Who doesn't love an indirect free kick in the box? So we need to see more of them in football.
Oh, I love it when they're all stood in the line, and Northampton were so keen to get off the line so quick. The referee had to delay the kicks by about 10 seconds because they were just sprinting out.
Here's my plan for it. What you should be, when we've got these handballs in the areas now, which are outside of the 6-yard box, that's what you should get given. So we just see more and more of them.
I think if a player is caught swearing in the penalty area, just give an indirect free kick. Just clean up the game.
Free kick to swearing.
Just anywhere, middle of the pitch.
Is that a centre parting you've got there, mate? Right, indirect free kick. They've not been in fashion since the 90s. Indirect free kick.
Are they curtains?
Yeah.
Oh,
Is that an
no.
undercut? Oh, no. No. Yeah, that would make the game more interesting, isn't it? No, we don't want drop balls anymore. You can get indirect free kicks from 6 yards out, or
Banning
8
drop
yards
balls are getting indirect free kicks, right? That will make the game interesting.
It would make it very interesting.
Yeah. So Burton scored an indirect free kick, and they kind of get the incentive from there. Northampton try to push to get an equaliser, don't do really enough of note. And then the 94th minute, Ryan Edwards gets the ball in the counter-attack from around the edge of his own box, sprints down the left wing, flicks the ball inside of Bryn Morris, who, to be honest, didn't really make a lot of effort to stop him. Gets 1-on-1 with the goalkeeper, slots it in the corner for a fantastic counter-attack goal that seals the win.
Yeah,
And
those
it was...
moments are the ones that, like, I bet you were off your chair.
Oh, I was running away celebrating. I've been nervous up to the whole point, but when that goes in, you just feel relief, and it's got them done. And I swear we're back in 2015 again, because it feels like it's just Hasselbank's first spell again. This ability they've got to seal wins late on, to win games late on, to get clean sheets. It's like he never left, honestly. Him and Dino have worked so well with this team so far, and I'd love this to keep continuing as it is, because it's been fantastic.
Yeah, massive credit for the recruitment, and you look at that team, it's just completely different, isn't it? And like you say, Josh Earl, and is it Hayden Carter?
Hayden Carter, yes.
Yeah, wow. I mean, energy. Sean Clare's done well, actually. He's kind of playing centrally, isn't he?
Yeah, he has. You go back to Hasselbank's first spell, he used Robbie Weir and Tom Naylor, who were two defensive players that covered every blade of grass. He's got the same thing again with Sean Clare and Ryan Edwards. They just go everywhere. They can hoover up a lot of the damage in midfield and move forwards up the pitch. So he's just recreated that again. It's wonderful to see.
Indeed.
And Josh Parker looked pretty good on the left-hand side as well before he got moved into the middle. Hit the post with a kick in the first half.
He's been a great signing. I mean, really under the radar as well. Actually, has to be said. Charlton and Gillingham, bit of a derby this one. 3-2 it finished. Gillingham getting the win. Now, right, taboo subject here, but direct football. People absolutely slate it, but if it works, it works. And I was looking up some stats about aerial duels won, and I couldn't believe that, like, before yesterday's game, the stat was that Verdane Oliver had won, like, I think it was 300 and something aerial duels. But the fact that he was 153 ahead of anyone else in League One tells you both all you need to know about the Gillingham style of football, and actually this guy's incredible ability to win the ball in the air. Absolutely superb. They did it yesterday against this is a good Charlton team. I know Lee Boy was saying it was down to poor officiating, some of it, and decisions and that, but I looked at the 2 yellows from Chuck Sneaker, and I'm old school, and I think it's a bit harsh, but you can't complain too much. What I would complain about if I was Lee Boy is the defending between the moment that Carl Dempsey gets the ball, runs from like 35 yards out, gets into the area and shoots. No one put in a tackle at all. I was thinking, okay, they're just backing off, and he scored. Oh, okay, great finish, by the way, but terrible defending. But anyway, direct football, guys. Is it acceptable in the modern game?
If it wins, yeah.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people have problems with it because it's not very aesthetically pleasing. Does it matter? If
people
you win,
hate losing to direct football teams, though, don't they?
Yeah, they really do. Every time Premier League teams lose to Burnley, they get so annoyed about it. Even the players do as well. It's quite funny. But if he wins, if there was one correct way of playing football, everyone would play it. That's what I've always said. There is no correct way. You make use of the players you've got. If you've got the players to play direct football, play direct, and you'll see yourself win games. There's nothing wrong with it at all.
Yeah, you've got Verdane Oliver up front. I'm not being unfair to Verdane Oliver. He's not bad with his feet, but you're not going to do like tick-a-tack football, are you? You're going to make use of the fact, you've got John Akinde and Verdane Oliver. Why don't we hit it in the air? They'll win the ball.
And then let Conor Ogilvie shoot from about 25 yards out.
Yeah, I told him he should wear that lucky headband a few more times. I mean, boom, what a shot that was. I mean, that's...
What a hit.
Goal of the season?
Oh, it's got to be right up there. Got to be.
Yeah.
I really like the first, though, as well. Ollie Lee's goal was beautiful. That did chest down and just to place it bottom right was great.
I have to say, I mean, I complain about the lack of tackling on the third, but they were all good goals that Gillingham scored, weren't they? Yeah, they were all cracking goals. It's just such a shame that there's no away fans there to, like, that away end would have been absolute bedlam. And I just think, I remember when Oxford, I didn't go, but Oxford played there and we came back and won late, and a lot of Oxford fans will still say that's our best away day for many years. I mean, it was just watching it was good enough, but imagine being there for that. That would have been amazing. But yes, Gillingham picking up an impressive victory, and good to see. And I think Carl Dempsey is showing what a good player he is this season. Plenty of game time, plenty of good performances, but he's getting more and more consistent. I think Gills are very lucky to have him. Sour grapes. Do we like sour grapes from League by at the end? Do you think it is all down to? I mean, we all know Steve Evans, but and I do know from speaking to managers that officials do tend to lean towards giving boisterous and vociferous managers decisions. But is that a factor in this game? Do you think?
I'm not so sure, to be honest.
Oh.
I don't know.
I will submit the floor for that one.
Yeah. Oh, we'll move on. I'm not sure.
No. Yeah.
I'm not sure it's ever.
We all know what Steve Evans like, don't we? And we know what his presence is like on the both physically and vociferously. But it's one of these where if you're stood next to him for 90 minutes, it must drive you insane.
Oh, I bet. I'm not entirely sure he gets all decisions his own way either. I think there's some occasions where referees get fed up with him and go the opposite way. I think he's been booked more times than his players.
Well, I went to a game when he was a manager. I can't even remember who was manager at the time. Who got kicked out by the police when he was playing at Town, and he had to go sit on the away bus. Only time I've ever seen that.
That's quite funny. That is quite funny.
Steve Evans can't beat him.
Yeah, he can't. But Gillingham, big win, big 3 points. Charlton, frustratingly inconsistent still. But there we go. Hull lost 1-0 to MK Dons, who have really impressed me lately. I mean, we know they're good on the ball and possession stats, but they haven't been clinical. But yet again, they get a win. Scott Fraser with one of these handballs that we're talking about. It was a penalty, by the way, and it was a lovely take as well. He took it really well, that penalty. Nice sort of little run up and then places it right in the corner. Mm-hmm. MK Dons on a nice little run, Ed. And dare I say it, do we fancy them as a team to keep an eye on in the second half of this season?
Football-wise, I think definitely. You're still not ever entirely sure with many clubs in League One because they still seem a bit inconsistent with the performances. Fraser, I don't know when he's got so good at penalties because he had one at pre-season for Burton at Solihull Moors and he missed it. So I don't know when he suddenly got so good at spot kicks from because he was never on them for Burton. But I think he's on 9 now for the season for them in League One. So it's his best goal scoring return for the club. We always knew that was going to be a good sign for them, and he's having such an influential part in that attacking midfield or central midfield role.
Indeed. Alex, your friends at Hull, they're a bit off form at the moment, aren't they? 1 win in the last 4. They looked a shoe-in for top 2 not so long ago with the way they were playing, but yeah, it's they've gone off the boil somewhat recently.
It always feels like Grant McCann is walking a tightrope at Hull, and it only takes a couple of defeats and I think he'll be gone. Hull fans are not very happy with him. They were bemoaning his substitutions yesterday and his choice of bench. They were saying it looked particularly weak.
The bench structure or the people sitting on it?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's another thing to have a go at the Alams with. Yeah. But just get a fishing trawler one in. We've got loads of them kicking around. Just stick something in there. But
he also loses a bucket. I mean, nothing wrong
that sounds very Grimsby. That does. We would probably have 99p screw fix buckets. It seems to be. I don't expect Hull to be promoted this season. I expect them to drop off a little bit. I know Malik Wilkes is a phenomenal player there, but I just worry that it will take just a couple of games. They're not on a particularly brilliant run at the moment. A couple more, then the heat will just go up on Grant McCann. It just seems he's always on the verge of being sacked, or that sort of very vociferous response from the Hull fans. They just don't seem to have got to him and like him.
The only thing I can parallel it to is Kenny Jackett at Pompey.
Definitely.
Every draw is met with Jackett out calls from some sections of the Frat and Faithful. It's quite amusing. But yeah, MK Dons, another impressive performance. Good week for them. They've done well. Plymouth, another win. I think it's 8 unbeaten now, Ed, and a 1-0 win yesterday. Another clean sheet. I think. Is it Tyler Ennis that they signed in January?
Niall Ennis.
Niall Ennis, sorry. Niall Ennis, that's right. And he's been impactful, hasn't he? I mean, was he at Burton briefly?
He was, yeah. And he was one that, unfortunately, Jay Buxton never made great use of. He was using him more out on the right wing at times. And I think he was always the kind of guy you wanted really as a centre forward as part of a two, like he's been at Plymouth Argyle, and they're really starting to see the benefit of him, and they got him on a permanent contract, so I think he'll only get better as the seasons go on.
Yeah, I'm really enjoying what Argyle are doing at the moment. Like we said last week, long-term contract for their manager. Finally found a way to defend, and I think that's been down to probably personnel changes in as much as anything at the back. And again, there's some. This is what I mean about League One this season. There are a lot of teams that you can see really starting to push their weight up the table and becoming a team that could be in and around the promotion mix, especially if some of these other sides start having a bit of stuttering form. It'd be great to see Argyle keep going and keep pushing up there. And I like what they're doing at the moment. I think they've done well. And a shout out to their keeper. It's Cooper, isn't it? A goal for them.
Yes.
He's been superb. I mean, Alex Palmer, as we know, big shoes to fill. He's been excellent for Lincoln this season. But I think Cooper's come in and he's done an excellent job in net. Was superb, a few times. I mean, against Accrington, last time out in the midweek game, he was superb, and they got 1-0 win there. So they're able to get the results which a few months ago or a few weeks back they weren't getting. They weren't able to do this. So excellent work from Argyle, liking what they're doing. Sunderland Doncaster. I mean, this is ridiculous. I was tweeting out like when it was 2-0 to Sunderland. I put out a tweet, generally thinking, oh yeah, 2 more goals for White and 2 assists for Aidan McGeady. Sunderland fans can get used to this, and then they do it again. I was like, oh, hang on a minute, I'll retweet that one. Deja vu on that. Oh, they've done it again. What is this? This is ridiculous. 4 goals, all assisted by the same player, is just mad. And the fact they're all headers, to be honest, I wasn't that surprised to hear that because it's Charlie Wyke after all. But the fact they've done this at home against Doncaster, that's not allowed. I mean, not if you're Sunderland. Everyone likes Sunderland being the full team. They're a big team that don't quite do it, and everyone likes sort of poking fun at them. But that was an absolutely breathtaking performance in that first 45, Ed.
It was fantastic, wasn't it? Absolutely incredible. I couldn't quite believe it. It's like one of those overpowered moves you get on FIFA, where you just cross the ball to one side and put it on the other guy's head, and they just kept doing that over and over and over again for the goals. And you kind of thought Doncaster would have learnt to snuff it out. But I guess you're just not able to deal with someone of McGeady's quality, and then White able to get himself into positions to get on the end of them. And then Doncaster had 2 penalties missed as well, didn't they? So it could have been an even closer scoreline if they'd scored those, although I seem to remember they weren't particularly great penalties. No,
that second one was rubbish.
No, they weren't good at all. And their only goal was one that I think went off the post and went off Lee Burgess' back, which is a bit unfortunate for him. He could well have ended up with a clean sheet on another day. Sunderland, I think it's an example of what they really can be. This side that are so dangerous on the attack. Charlie Wyke's in absolutely fantastic form. You still worry they're just a bit too inconsistent to get themselves right up with the very top teams at the minute. If they play like that normally, you're not taking any points off them. But I think it really depends on what version of Sunderland turns up, and that's why they're still in the playoff places at the minute and not up there with likes of Lincoln and Hull.
Well, their fans will be expecting to go to Burton and win, just looking at the table, won't they? They'll be expecting that. But they're Sunderland. They lost to Shrewsbury Town and they were poor in that game in midweek. They were really poor. And I made the point about their transfer window. I got absolutely slated on Twitter for saying that their transfer window was not a resounding success. But my point was you've just signed 4 players who are untried, and some people were coming back at me saying we've just signed an England under-19 international left back. I said I don't care what he's done under-19 international wise. He's playing in League One now, and he was dropped for this game. Was Vokins after playing terrible against Shrewsbury, because it's a different game altogether. It's all very well saying, well, we've signed an under-19 Northern Ireland international, under-19 blah blah blah. You do have to just say, look, get these kids into League One men's football. It's a very different landscape, and I think none of the new signings actually started yesterday. So they've got enough quality in that team. I think the big thing was they changed to a 4-3-3, and you've got Charlie Wyke flanked by Lyndon Gooch and Aidan McGeady, which at this level is a very, very good attacking trident. And then the midfield all played superbly well. And Max Power's back playing midfield, Ed.
And a pair of proper fullbacks as well, in Callum McThadgen and Conor McLaughlin, sorry, not Ryan. But having a natural right back in there was quite nice as well. I like Max Power in midfield more than I do right back, certainly.
Yeah, absolutely. And I thought Sanderson played well at centre back. actually. I thought he partnered Bailey Wright nicely. Couple of moments where you think, he's perhaps a bit hesitant, but actually for a young man, he looked very assured. And so Sunderland, Sunderland's next game is Burton away. They got Fleetwood at home and Crewe away. So those 3 games, they will be looking, because this is a team with this much talent that hasn't put 3 wins together in a row all season in the league. And that is like you say, Ed, that's the problem, isn't it? Not enough consistency.
Yeah.
And they'll need to find that somehow in the next few games. So a lot of positives in that, and I say 4-3-3, keep it like that, play like that, and give it a bit of time. And I think that would be a very solid formation. Not a huge amount has changed in terms of the league table based on yesterday's results. You've got Lincoln top, Hull second, Peterborough, Portsmouth, Doncaster, Sunderland sneaking back in to the top 6 with Charlton's defeat, so that's good for them. Charlton and Accrington, the teams just outside, but there are loads of teams close to the playoff places. I mean, you go back down as far as even Ipswich, who are only 5 points off the playoffs. MK on 6 points now out of that look, and that you can see these teams getting back in it. It just needs, like you said last week about Bradford, it just needs a good run, and a team can be back in it. You boys are now within 2 points of safety.
I can't believe it. I actually cannot believe it. We were so far adrift a month ago. It's incredible what's happened.
Yeah, absolutely amazing that. Burton then still bottom, but like I say, 2 points from safety. Northampton, Swindon and Wigan make up the bottom 4. Bristol Rovers only outside it by a single goal on goal difference. So keep an eye on their next appointment. I mean, it's going to be very interesting who they go out and get. Their chairman or the chief executive, I saw his interview saying they're not sure whether they'll do a proper recruitment process, or they've already got a couple of candidates that they like the feel of and the look of, so they might just appoint one of them without doing a big recruitment process. I think time is a huge factor for them with games coming thick and fast right now. So yes, we'll wait and see. But there was not much games to survive the weather in League 2, but nonetheless, let's jump in and talk about them now.
League 2.
And the only goal in the 2 games that played just in League 2 was in the match that I wasn't watching, which is just so bloody typical. I watched Cambridge draw 0-0 with Southend on a pitch that was half sand, half ice. So it was what it was. But Cambridge didn't get going. They were quite flat. Southend defended really well. John White had an excellent game. I thought Sim Akinola and Emil Aqua held the ball up at times superbly in challenging conditions, and probably I think Southend will feel they could have won this, and I'd agree with that, and it's a good point for them on the road. And I'd say it's not a bad point for Cambridge, because you look at the conditions, it's never going to be an easy game. It's another point on the board, and it's after an appalling performance against Salford, they'll take that. And the only other game was Bolton 1, Stevenage 0, and this one, again, another controversial red card, but a Bolton win, 3 points. They, again, for the squad that they put out, they never quite dominate teams, but it's great to see Declan John score his first goal. He's had a torrid time since arriving at Bolton, had that, I think it was a hamstring injury, like literally before he'd even played a first game, but he's back in the lineup, signed as a left back on loan from Swansea, and he's meant to be the first team left back, but Ben Jackson's actually been deputising really well in the last few games. I've been impressed with him. Arthur Gano dropped, not very keen on that, but Adafalayan, I think his name is, who's made a few loan spells. I remember him at, I think, Oldham and Northampton perhaps, on loan from West Ham. He's put in a couple of good performances, and I think he was the man to get the assist on the goal. But I don't know, what do you think, Ed? The transfer window that Bolton had, we loved it. Is it going to take them a bit of time, though, to get these players embedded in? And obviously, be nice to see them keep them all on the pitch.
No, I agree with that. The red card is very contentious, I think is the word. It's a bit like the one that happened in midweek, where I was watching the midweek one, the draw they had with Morecambe, and I initially thought Marcus Madison deserved the red, but looking back at it, I wasn't so sure. I think it was more the reaction of the Morecambe team that surrounded the ref that really influenced the decision there, and I wonder, whilst there wasn't the same reaction from the Stevenage players here, maybe that might see it rescinded potentially again here. We'll have to see with that.
It doesn't reflect well on League 2 refs that
it doesn't.
If a second red card is rescinded.
No, it doesn't at all. But Bolton's window, I agree, was very encouraging. You're just not entirely sure how well they're going to improve on that. I think they've still got a way to go. They haven't had Sarcevic for a little bit of a while now. I'm still not entirely sure about whether George Thomason and MJ Williams is the right deep midfield pair. I think they're still a bit too defensive minded. You want someone who's a bit more progressive than Anthony Sarcevic could be. I'm not a particularly big fan of Nathan Delfonso as a number 10. He doesn't really strike me as that kind of creative player that you'd want in that position.
Would you want to put Madison there, do you think?
Potentially, yeah. I quite like him out on the right hand side though, because I love when he's able to get onto his left foot and shoot a goal. So potentially, maybe, but I quite like him out on the right. I feel like maybe Sarcevic could go in that number 10 role perhaps, and you have Delfonso utilised as more of a winger or striker alternative to Yohan Doyle. But I'm really curious to see what does happen with Bolton Wanderers, because they've had a good window and they need to improve on their league position overall, because it's not been good so far this season.
Indeed. Well, it's encouraging in terms of the result yesterday, and I like the fact their bench was so strong for the first time in a long time, with the likes Isgrove, Ganoa, El Bouzedi. These are game-changing kind of players at this level. So definitely an improvement where they have really struggled with players that can offer impetus coming off the bench. So that's definitely a positive. One team that does need to improve their league position, and pronto, is Grimsby Town. Alex, tell us about the return of Paul Hurst. Tell us about the takeover that has taken so long to go through. We had Ian Holloway. Frankly, it came across as nonsense what he said on Quest TV last night when questioned.
Are we sitting comfortably? So Paul Hurst's return, I think a lot of fans are quite sympathetic to the position old Runaway has left us in. He had to return the vast majority of the loan players that Ian closed his eyes and threw the darts at and saw what hit.
Don't talk about darts, dear oh dear.
Yeah, absolutely. My
That's
God.
a very expensive darts game in terms of the fine that it cost you. It was apparently as well, it was in front of EFL officials as well. So you couldn't have made it more blatant. So they were at the training ground looking at things, seeing how everything was going, and they were doing it there in front of their face. But that's just a rumour. It's a struggle, and I think one of the problems we have been in limbo with the takeover, no one really feels like they own the club, so no one has taken onus of the transfer market, the budget available, and maybe how far Town are willing to push it. The takeover will go through. By the looks of it, it's one of these that will happen tomorrow, or it will take a couple of weeks just to ratify. But from all positions, it looks like it's been agreed in principle. It just needs the EFL to sign on the dotted line, and it gets confirmed. How nice would it be to have no more John Fenty at Grimsby Town, eh?
It will be the biggest thing to happen at Town for nearly 20 years. It is the day. You will not meet a person who is rock bottom of League Two more optimistic than I. It's going to be an incredible moment. I've got champagne already. So do most Town fans. It's going to be a huge day for us, and hopefully we can start focusing back on what this club has done before, which is punching above its weight, managing itself efficiently, properly, finding a key group of players who like the area, like living here, realise they can kind of live like a king sort of around where we do for very little money, and enjoy it. One of the things that Paul Hurst made a big success of last time round was bringing players in who were starting families, likes of Sean Pearson and Macca and Disley and such, where you can buy a relatively nice house for very little money and have a fair bit of change in your pocket afterwards too. So hopefully that'll be what's happening again. It's just goals. We just need goals. Matt Green, I don't know where he's going to end up. Dog and duck maybe, but my God, I've never seen a more ineffectual striker in my life.
Careful. He's with me. He scored that goal at Wembley against York City, where I love the guy for that.
Good for you. I mean, I would like that man here, but his last shot on target in anger was on the 1st of December for us. So make year? Of that what you were.
What year?
Yeah, exactly. He's on a tidy wage as well, but there are other players to take a lot of blame as well. Hopefully the likes of Stephen Payne, John Lewis, not the big signing you'd expect or hope for, but he's going to be a player that immediately buys into Paul Hurst's ethos, immediately buys into to what he wants.
I wasn't enthused about this. Obviously, you can see from an outside, you signed a player from Hereford who's not got a great goal scoring record, but actually, the media guy Lewis Cox at Salop said actually Paul Hurst loves him, and he was absolutely integral in how well he did at Salop and how he changed things around. So, I can doff my cap to that. I can say, I was wrong maybe, and I'd love to see him come in and do well. I'd love to see Grimsby turn this around as well.
Yeah, wouldn't we all? But I mean, if you'd have offered me the start of the season, you get 22nd and you keep John Fenty, or you get relegated and you've got a new board, I would still take the latter. I got pelters for that, but it's a brighter future even so. But hopefully we'll do enough to stay up, but it's looking less and less likely.
It is looking less and less likely. But it's great to hear that the takeover might finally come to fruition. Any of the transfers that he's made, Paul Hurst? I mean, Jay Matet's look good, hasn't he?
Yeah, Matet's looked fantastic. So has the bloke from Bristol. Name forgets, not
Roland
Bristol.
Manise.
Sorry, that's it. Yeah, he looks pretty good.
You've got Adams as well, haven't you? The right winger.
Yeah, Joe Adams. His touch against Newport. I mean, obviously the pitches at the moment are terrible. Some of the touches he's made have been phenomenal. And as these guys, and Matete has just been a breath of fresh air. He's been so hardworking, so diligent, putting other senior pros to shame in terms of his effort and level of commitment, considering he's on loan at the club. And Hurst is slowly building that cluster of players that he wants around him, who've got the ethos that he wants. I worry that the games we've played now are the ones we'd have wanted to have played later on down the line. Yeah. The fact that we've had sort of lucky that Barrow game's been called off, but we've had Southend, we've had Stevenage, and it's just slowly moving out of our grasp. It
is indeed. But that point put Southend out of the relegation zone yesterday, bringing Barrow into it. So it's going to be it's a difficult one, isn't it? Looking at the table, at the moment you're 3 points adrift, but you do have a game in hand on Southend and Stevenage, because you were at one point well ahead of everyone in terms of games played. So it's just hard to see who's going to be worse than you. You'd have to say you've got to catch Southend and Barrow at the moment. I think Stevenage, probably looking at their efforts yesterday, might be too good to go down. I mean, they're not too good to go down. That's silly, but they've got a bit more about them than they have for a while. So we'll see. But everyone is rooting for Grimsby, I think, to be a good team again, because it has been so tough. And speaking to people inside the club in the summer, it was clear that this was going to be the outcome of this season. It was just so obvious. And no one will be surprised. But anyway, let's get on to everyone's questions. We've got quite a few to go through and not long left, so let's jump into them. So Lee Tennant has asked, best 5 January signings in your opinion in terms of a transformative effect they could have on the teams that have signed them. I'll go to you first on this, Ed.
Well, if I can throw a Burton Albion one in there, I'd probably go with Josh Earl, the left back who's on loan from Preston North End. I think in the games he's been in so far, he's shown himself to be a fullback that can really compete with any opposing winger. He's got all the physical attributes you want. He's big, he's strong, he's fast. He's got great long limbs that allows him to tackle or clear the ball. He looks like someone who can compete with any opposing player in the league and then get forward and impact the game himself. And left back has been an area that Burton have been quite weak in so far this season. So I think he could be a notable improvement and what could hopefully be an upturn in great form.
Alex, any that you could think of? I've got a list here that's way bigger than 5. So
I'll think some more.
I'm going to bring in a very much a Grimsby and Burton feel on this. I'm going with Charles Vernon at Bradford.
Yes, I was thinking that.
Yeah.
I have no idea why Burton thought it was a good idea to get shot of him. I have no idea why we thought it was a good idea to get shot of him. He is an incredible player over the last sort of 6 months at least of game time. And he was fantastic for us. I think he could transform Bradford's attacking abilities, especially that transition from defence to attack.
Yeah.
I think he's very lucky.
I would also put Danny Rowe, the striker, in there as well to Bradford. Yeah. We'll probably have 2 of them. I think those 2
he's
are
on my list. Yeah,
such a notable impact to Bradford in the situation they're in the minute. I think they can really improve.
I've also got Harry Chapman at Shrewsbury.
Yes.
I mean, he's been amazing, hasn't he? And pretty much signed on the first day of the window, and he's been superb. I think you can't say at the moment, I don't think there's been anyone more impactful than him that has joined in January. I have a feeling, I think Matt O'Reilly has been excellent for MK Dons. I think he counts as a January signing. he's done superbly well. I think Luke Matheson might be the kind of player that Ipswich need as well in that full-back position, because he is
I wonder about maybe Nicky Adams at Oldham, potentially.
Yeah, I had
having
him.
that very composed,
look good as well.
experienced right back.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't know what you guys think. George Taft at Scunthorpe. I mean, exactly the kind of player they
I
needed.
like that one. Yeah, I think.
I don't like that one as much, but not for the same reasons.
Yeah, I thought you would. But no, he's done well. Frank Nouble could be important for Colchester as well. Just more his character. That team has really lacked something. And the other ones, I think this is cheating because he was on loan there before the window, but getting George Lapsley on a permanent, despite the fact he's now injured, is great for Mansfield. And I wonder
maybe I've got just thought another one. Maybe Robbie Gotts at Salford as well. I think he could have a good impact for them.
Yeah, I'm also. Oh, sorry, I'm going to add Elliot Embleton at Blackpool as well.
Yeah, if he gets the game time there, he'll be a very good player for him. I did have who else did I have on this list? Oh, I did have Marcus Madison, just simply because if he does get back to the levels that we know he's capable of, then he will be wonderful for Bolton. It's just that's down to him though. Like that's down to him not being such a petulant arse. Let's be honest. I mean, he is. He's got that character, and you just think, yeah, just don't be a prima donna.
Can we count Scott Twine at Swindon?
Yes, we should be able to.
Can we count that? Even though it's a returning loan.
Has he actually been played yet by John Sheridan?
They used him in the Ipswich win, didn't they, earlier in January?
And he had that goal.
Amazing goal.
Yeah.
He could be really important.
Mine aren't all former Town players, but Donny's pulled one out of the bag getting Omar Bogle. Yeah. They are a very lucky team, and I'm not heartbroken at all. Not at all.
Not at all. No, I didn't think you would be.
Not at all.
Talking of Swindon, actually, basket case clubs. We were asked top 5 basket case clubs in League 1 and 2. I actually thought this was harder than I thought it would be this season, but I think Ipswich was one of them simply because of the way that the chairman and the manager are basically facing off against the supporters. I mean, it's not a good look from the outside, and the mood there is terrible. Swindon, because no one knows who actually owns the club. We're talking Michael Standing, Gareth Barry, Lee Power, and there's another chap whose name escapes me who lives abroad who actually has a 15% stake in the club. So it's a real mess, and they're obviously Lee Power's statement about the finances are serious, and it's real struggle times for them. I mean, and in the league they're doing badly as well. So I really actually hope that Swindon can get out of this, because they are Oxford's rivals, but football, there's far more for lower league clubs at the moment that unites us than should divide us, despite rivalries. We really do need to have a united front against everything that goes against us at the moment.
The thing that worried me most about Swindon was there was a development confirmed a couple of days ago, wasn't there? And because there isn't enough affordable housing apparently in the proposal, there's a £600,000 fee that could sit with the club to pay to the council because they haven't met that certain proviso. Because I think they're building a footballers' village, aren't they? I think that's what it's been crowned. But that's going to be interesting to watch.
Oh dear, £600,000 at this for any football club right now is just, Macclesfield went out of business for less. That's how serious it is. I did have Grimsby on this list, I'm afraid, Alex, because of I
knew I could sense a win.
But there was this great moment this season when it was just like a statement from someone followed by a statement from someone else. It was like who could get the most statements out as quickly as possible in a little bit of a race there.
I know they're having
Yeah, sorry.
No, I was going to say another one. I know they're having a fairly okay season. We're still putting Oldham on this list.
Well, I think
just with the whole David Wheater situation, surely.
Yeah, they are on my list. Simply because, I mean, how can he injured himself according to club statements, lifting his dog up?
I've also put Scunny on there. They're an underrated basket gaze club. Peter Swan has a lot of money and is ploughing it into the club. There's something like 10 million in debt now, and their position isn't incredible. I think they're underrated in it. I mean, I'm looking at it from a very much a Grimsby point of view, but it doesn't seem to be something that is going to right itself before it gets worse.
Yeah, and we can't let Southend get away with not being on here, just what's gone on.
No.
I mean, and if you've read Stephen Humphrey's recent interview about the fact that after he broke, was it 15 bones or something ridiculous, or even more than that, I think, bones in his face, and they were told he couldn't run. The doctors, the specialists said you're not allowed to run or do any exercise for a year, and the club pushed him back into training within like 8 weeks because they're desperate. Does not look good on the club at all. That was terrible. Other questions. There's so many good ones. If you're a billionaire, which club would you buy in League 1 and 2, guys? This is from Sam Bryan.
I found this one really hard to answer.
I went with Plymouth for League 1 and then Exeter for League 2. Being the largest population without a Premier League time, they deserve a bit of good time in the top leagues. Do Plymouth? I think that'd be great. I think they've got a good setup there. And Exeter, just because of I feel like I would be a bad owner for them, even if I've got billions. They're just so well run. They're doing everything right, but it would be nice to reward such good ownership with some time in the sun up there. Whether or not people enjoy the Premier League then is a different question.
Yeah, they were ones that came into my mind as well. I was kind of thinking about ones that I think are always been quite disrespected in terms of their lower league status. So I was thinking something like Morecambe. I think it'd be quite fun to see Morecambe get taken over by a billionaire and get huge investment brought in and become a much more established side higher up the pyramid, because I think that would really annoy a lot of other clubs to see little Morecambe competing with them.
I'd be tempted to buy Oldham just because the thought of being the first person to own a club that hasn't won a promotion since 1991.
You love bringing that up. You love mentioning it.
Yeah, it's a shame that I can't rub it into Chris because he's not here today. What a shame. But I have to say that would be a challenge. And I do like their ground. And they've got the OEC stuck to it, which could bring in some income. There's some potential there. It's just not been well managed, has it, as a team over the last few years at all. Chris Kelly asked an interesting one, which we're probably not going to have time to really do justice, but it was about now the salary cap has been removed. Thoughts and ideas that are legally binding, realistic and beneficial to all clubs in terms of helping financial governance of the game in League 1 and 2. It's a very difficult question to answer, even if I had an hour to do it, because let's be honest, the fundamental thing that needs to change in football is the rights for the EFL need to be sold with the Premier League's rights, and their money needs to be distributed far more fairly. That's the first thing that you need to do to make sure football has a long-term future. Until that happens, I really can't see it. The other thing you could just do is properly enforce rules on, the current rules on like the amount of money you spend on wages compared to your income. I have no problem with Sunderland spending more than Accrington simply because they're a bigger club and they have more money. That's fine. I also think there should be some sort of cap on directors' loans that you can just plumb in, because that's just cheating, isn't it? And the problem with directors' loans and stuff like that is it can leave a club with huge wage bills, and if those people then get bored and want to leave, you leave the club, like we saw with Wigan, just with nowhere to go. So, but Chris, thanks for that question. I'm afraid, again, don't think we can really do it justice in the time we've been afforded. Joe Sniff also asked, League 1 and 2 team of the season so far. I mean, I did this on a fag packet. I don't know if you've got any must includes, Ed, for this.
Oh, team of the seasons. I would honestly put George Honeyman in a League 1 one, I think.
I found League 1 really hard. I mean, I had Alex Palmer.
I know.
It's my goalie.
Yeah, Alex Palmer's a great shot to that, I think. I think you've got to put Jeffcott in there. I'd put him in there. I think he's been a big part of why Argyle found themselves in potential playoff contention. People
have made a lot of his one-touch finishing. I mean, it's his positioning. That's what it is. He's got a natural ability to be in the right position. It's not, anyone can finish with one touch from a yard out, but you've got to be there. And that's what he's so good at. He's in the right place at the right time. His positional sense is just naturally excellent. It's really a joy to watch, actually. And if you play in a team that play progressive football like Plymouth, then it's only going to help him. And I hope he stays there and is one of these players that helps them progress, because I don't like seeing all the best players be taken.
Yep. I'd want to put Matty London there as well, actually. Even though he's down the bottom of the table, he's having an unreal season.
Yeah, I've got list of midfield centres. I've got George Grant, Carl Dempsey, Scott Fraser, and of course Matty Lund, I think.
Yeah.
McGeady and White not in there.
Well, they're on my list, actually. In fact, you could just play those two, couldn't you? And you get.
That's all you need. That's the combination. That's all you need.
Alex Palmer, Charlie White, and Aidan McGeady. I think that trio would probably win more matches than the Swindon have this season, actually. But we'll have to move on to League 2. Is a bit more easy for me. I'd have like Hladky in goal because I think he's been excellent. I had Reece Bennett and Ben Tozer as my centre backs. Udoka Goodwin Malif as a right back, though Carl Noyle, shout out to him because he's excellent. Hussey is my left back. I have to have Bahambula in my team. And I did include Adam Phillips because I think although he's left League Two now to go to Accrington, he was so good for more.
Would you have Scott Twine there as well? Because he was just
I had him in my bracket underneath Adam Phillips.
Yeah.
No room for Houlihan.
I didn't have
Wes
Houlihan,
has got to go
actually.
in.
I mean, I had Gimme Toure just because I'd love to have Bahambula on one wing and Toure on the other.
You've got to get Wes in there. I'm sorry, you've got to.
But Toure hasn't played much, so I think that's just me being like it's my fag packet personal preference. Mullin and Vaughan as my strikers.
Yeah, I like that.
I thought it was good, but unfortunately, guys, we are out of time. I do really appreciate all those of you who sent us questions. Really sorry that we weren't able to get to them all. Nepo asked us about Cambridge, and let's be honest, I have to be honest, they've been superb this season. Much better than I thought. I think much better than anyone thought is what I'd say on that. They've been absolutely brilliant. We kind of, Lewis Dannon asked about Argyle's playoff chances. I think we kind of looked at it a little bit in our sort of League One coverage. We think they're a team to keep an eye on, certainly. It's so open. Anyone can make that climb up the table. But yeah, big thank you to all of those who put in questions. I'm sorry we've run out of time here. Alex, debut on the pod. You've been excellent, mate. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to have you on.
Absolutely, but you know this is a recording. You can do it at another time than Sunday at 9 a.m. You're both mad.
It's more I have to get it done because daddy duty takes over. You know, I get these guys up at 8:30 sometimes. I'm a slave driver.
Absolutely.
We've got this annoying habit, unfortunately, of doing this early morning and then the manager getting sacked within an hour of us finishing recording. It happens far too often, annoyingly.
It does, yeah. I think it's just no other time at the moment would work for me too well, I think, to be fair. But Ed, you're superb. You set your alarm properly today, so well done. Thank you for that.
What's that meant to mean?
Yeah. You and Chris take it in turns to set your alarms wrong, don't you?
Don't know what you're on about.
Anyway, listeners, thank you so much again for your attention and your time. Really enjoyed this pod. Thank you to all our patrons. You guys are vital for us to keep going. It's been lovely to have your support. And there are some matches today, so I'm going to watch Oxford Wigan later. I say there is Colchester and Mansfield as well if you don't want to see a goal. No, that's unfair. Mansfield.
That's harsh.
That's harsh. Yeah, I hope Colchester improve. Their fans are not very happy at the moment, that's fair to say, for good reason. But anyway, we'll be back next week as always. Until then, everybody, take care of yourselves.